filming a video to show how I'm going to mount the Gantry Ultimate to my cabinet. The cabinet, the space that I had to drill a hole for the socket at the bottom of the rocket there, and then I'm also having to leave off the antenna, but it's basically jammed against the top of the cabinet. But anyway, it gives a suspended look off of this whenever it's not sitting on the rug. But to deal with the platform part here, so I bought this and painted it black. And like the kind of the look underneath. So this is just a PVC DWV toilet flange. All right, so put this up under, and it has screw holes where I can mount it to the cabinet. Even a little bit of leeway, I guess, there. And then that is 3-inch, excuse me, goes outside 3-inch pipe. So 3-inch pipe will go here. And then that's schedule 40, which is the wall thickness of the pipe. I found this cap that is schedule 3034, you see right there, which means it's a thin wall. It's a really thin wall to it. It's in areas where you don't have traffic, you don't have vehicles driving over, etc. So anyway, just so happens that this cap goes right inside of that perfectly. So it makes a little socket. So what I'm going to do is bolt it to the cabinet like so, and also measured like where this sits, and then I put a level here to get the distance that it needed to be to give you the overall level look. So ballpark about 2 inches. This cap will actually jam all the way down flush to where you don't see it. Then for the bottom of the gantry, let's see if I can do this. Of course, you've got this socket right here that's the bracket's supposed to go into. So I marked the 2 holes there. I'm gonna pause for just a second and mount that on there. So, cup here, I use fender washers to give extra support around it. These are the actual screws that Yoast included in the set. They're, I think, adequate. And when I say that, I'm saying the depth, that they're not too long. Let's see. Nope, perfect. So I may need to add another, need to add another fender washer. Okay, so adding a fender washer's got the size for your bolt, but they're really wide. A lot of surface to stabilize, so it looks like that. The reason the bolt's too long is because Yoast's bracket is a lot thicker than this PVC cap. Okay, that's it. 2 fender washers is great on this 3034 cap. So now, whenever I get it on the cabinet, it'll socket in just like so. Set all the way to the ground and give the hovering appearance. Unless you get all the way up under, you can't really see it, and especially whenever you light it properly with LEDs, etc. So, okay, so it's in place. As you can see, you can only just barely see the underneath, and that's a sheetrock wall. I don't have the poster backdrop behind it yet. So that should disappear because that's a lot darker, whereas you're seeing the LED currently. So there's the base, which I will reach up under here and mark. I've got a 2x2 support right there would be perfect. Lines up with that. So I'll screw in a couple of screws there, but even without it, it's very stable. And put a level on it, it's really close. Your eye can't discern the slight that it's off. That's what I was talking about. I had to socket the cabinet. But anyway, there you go. Time for the backdrop to go in. I just put it on a piece of 1/4-inch plywood, so it's rigid. Industrial strength Velcro at 3 spots here. Blocks on the bottom to keep the bottom edge from coming in, and pressing across here should keep it in place. Yep. We'll have these AA replacements for the platform lights that once I get it in place, I got it wired from there into a multi-strip, so no batteries. Secured the flange here and here. What I did was put it up here, and then I reached in and scratched, and I've got a support right here. It's a 2x2, so there's multiple holes you can hit on the flange, so that's rock solid. It ain't going nowhere. And voila. It's mounted, and my cord runs back along there and into there, so the lights work. It's in place. Alright, so I got the pose I like on Luke and Vader. It's very important. Find poses that you like. I'll explain kind of what I was looking for later, but find poses that you like, then take pictures of them before you remove them to final setup or whatever, unless you're just final posing and leaving them. Snap a photo, because you'll forget and go, what was that I did? But anyway, so disconnected his hand, left it on there. It's easier to do it that way. Then I'm running, this is Chris's sabers, and running it to where I can hide it in the clothes down his sleeve. So if you can see, I'm running it down the sleeve here, and then I don't think I'll be able to get it in the pants leg, but I can probably like put it through the holster or something and keep it on the back edge here. Matter of fact, that holster strap will work great. Vader's got plenty of capes and stuff. He should be easy to hide. So after struggling for a couple minutes, I discovered his shirt unsnaps, so duh. Anyway, so fished it down the sleeve back here, and then the reason I kept the hand on there like this, let's see here, it's actually run to the wrong side, so I'm going to loop it like so. And may have to tinker a little bit to get this back. So I was going for a hands over, I'll display a photo. I wanted Luke's hands over his head for a dynamic pose. The problem is the shoulders. So to get his arms up, you have to, there's like one way that it sockets and goes higher than the other. So you have to rotate the arms and keep feeling for where that is, and you can eventually get it to where his wrist will, his wrist and hands will get above his head, which is what I was looking for. And then it's just a matter of trying to take the slack out and get him back like I had him. You may have to rotate the wrist pegs to make it work. Actually, also I'm putting the joint of the wrist peg out this way, and the reason being is I can fold that wrist back like this and hide this ugly joint here. So just another thought. Okay, so see, since I lined that joint up before I snapped it on, now I can fold this wrist back and help hide that seam and joint a little bit. And now take the slack out of the sleeve. And once that's done like that, then barely visible on the wire. Okay, so this is what I'm going for, like so. I want the kind of cross block look. So keep manipulating the wrist to where you can hide this joint. I mean, it'll be ugly from that direction, but the direction that you're actually going to use it on, it'll look like that. And then I just keep, like if his hands are separated, then you see the wire there. So just bring his hands together. And as you can see that wrist peg again, so I need to manipulate that. But what I was going to show was the shoulders. You can kind of manipulate, pull down on one and back on the other, and you can kind of, you know, do you want it way over his head like so that Vader's coming in and a blow like this. That's actually probably going to be pretty close to what I go with. I just need to tweak to where I can hide. I don't like that wrist peg there. So that you can see that socket joint there. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. So anyways, also, all right, so if I did this with his head, then you're losing the head sculpt or whatever. So since the DX7 Luke has the movable eyes, what do they call it, PERS, PERS or whatever, what I did is cut his eyes back to Vader like this, then I can have him more looking profile. And it actually gives a more dynamic, you can actually put his head down a little bit and make his eyes go up, you know, so it just gives a more interesting and dynamic pose. Also on, a thing I see a lot of people do is they don't use the waist articulation. If you watch football players or baseball players or whatever, all kinetic energy is in the lower body. So to demonstrate and show power, you want to twist the body. You know, do you want something like this where he's stepping forward, you know, like this? Something like this, you know, where he's more torqued, but play around with, you know, bending at the waist. That's kind of cool, you know, like he's, you could actually flatten this out more, do more of a display like that. You could do like he's lunging in more. Anyway, mess around with the waist articulation. Then also, if you stand straight up, boring, it has no energy, it has no kinetic energy to it. So as I'm looking at this, I would see him probably turning like this. I would want to throw this foot forward for balance because he's blocking the shot. So if you think about it, if somebody's going to run at you, you're going to lean into it. And then I would do this. He doesn't have any ankle articulation, so to speak. So again, that looks goofy. You may be able to get away with something like that, but you're probably going to have to go all the way, perpendicular to the plane of the figure to get stability if you're not using a stand. And now from there, so I like pretty much, I'm out of camera, I'm sorry about that. So I pretty much like that, and I may tweak around with, you know, what I want in the waist once he gets posed, which you don't want to dive down, then you lose his face. So may end up with something like that, and then I could bring this foot more forward and this leg backwards. Again, trying to keep that plane that he would fight with. And then, again, manipulating the shoulders. I can pull this hand down a little bit. And now you're seeing the saber again, so the cord again, so push his hands together. Now he's got a little bit of waist turn. Went the Elmer Fudd on you there. So you could do something like that, where he's blocking. kind of like that. Looks like he's bracing. His hand's maybe a little bit low, so let's push him higher. And then I have to see how the lights do on his face, if it blocks or whatever. Anyway, just in general, that's what I'm looking for in the pose. And then Vader's going to be just a single strike down, you know, so Luke's basically defending himself on this, will be what we're trying to impose there. But main thing, hide that wire. And then I'll glue his cuff back. All right, trying to get them in place here. Wire's hidden fairly well, probably from the camera angle I've got. But Luke's wire comes down right here, but I can actually use, Vader's cape to kind of hide that at the bottom. I'll get a face-on shot here in just 1 second. So got Vader coming up the stairs here. Have the helmet off because it falls off every time you breathe wrong. So I can do something like this to expose his clenched fist. I'm going to do something to make it look like the wind's blowing there, which was very prevalent in Empire. So from the front view, I can't see the wire on Luke at all until it gets to way down here, and I can hide that with Vader's cape. So another important thing in posing is sight lines, eye lines. You want the figures, unless you're going for a reason to not do that, but you want Luke to be looking at Vader and so forth. So right now Luke's a little bit hunched over, so I'm going to arch his back a little bit. All right, so like so. You don't want the sabers too close to each other's face. You want them close because it gives off a really cool, the glow off of Chris's sabers makes a very cool effect. So I've turned Vader to where you can see his chest box a little bit. So I'm going to bring this hand up and flatten this just a little bit, like he's come down over the top of that. Now Vader's eye line currently is going over Luke's head. Don't want that. So we want to drop that just a little bit to where it may not be able to get it perfect. You know, keep him as upright to keep his height and imposing stature as possible. Okay, from this view, one problem that I see is that Luke could easily slide right here and take his arm off, so the motion does not look natural. So what I need to do is turn just a little bit this way to where it doesn't look like Luke could take him out with a cheap shot. So again, if anything, you want the sight line to be slightly into this shoulder because that allows you to see more of the face of the figure that you spent a fortune on. Again, torso torque is your friend as far as energy portrayal. Maybe having him come down a little bit more like that. You want the sabers crossed as much in the middle as you can get away with. So maybe step Luke in a little bit. It just looks better. So from there, again, my sight line comes up like this because this is a high cabinet. Should be able to see the chest backs flashing, most of Vader's wardrobe. Not liking the fact that Luke's facing in too much. I would like him more like this. So what I'm going to do is change the angle that he's holding the saber back a little bit. That allows me to go here. There we go. Now, see Luke is facing. See, his sight line is looking to Vader. Vader's basically looking at him. I need to turn his head in just a little bit. He's now looking off here. So I'm going to bring that down a little bit like so, and Luke's going to fall again. So now you're portraying that Vader was trying to chop him in half this way, and Luke has blocked it. So Vader's sight line is basically here. I'm going to bring it a little bit more, like so. Okay, now he's looking at him. So the sight lines are natural. Luke's looking up at his forehead and down here. Let me throw the helmet on it.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did.